It's not looking terribly hopeful, but his attorneys are doing everything they can.
Idaho's plan to execute its longest-serving death row inmate Wednesday continues to draw controversy. Thank you for joining us here on the news at 10. I'm Shira Matsuzawa. This weekend, an anti-capital punishment organization wants Idahoans on both sides to come together and talk about the issue. So let's get right over to Abby Davis. And Abby, they organized two events, correct?
Right. Well, the Death Penalty Action, it's a out-of-state nonprofit, says Idaho doesn't have an anti-death penalty organization, partly why its leaders wanted to come to the Gem State ahead of Creech's execution. This weekend, this Boise church and another in Pocatello will open their doors for community members to talk about the death penalty.
We have a guy who's scheduled to be executed next week, and the courts keep shutting down every appeal that's being made.
Appeals to save Thomas Creech from execution Wednesday. The 73-year-old's convicted of 5 murders. Death Penalty Action Executive Director Abraham Bonowitz doesn't agree with his punishment.
Do we have to kill this guy? Is he unworthy of being allowed to live out his life with death by incarceration?
So the national nonprofit organized 2 events along with local faith leaders.
Let's have a polite, friendly conversation about the issue so that we can all actually start to think about it a little bit more than the gut reaction that we all have when we hear about some awful crime.
Whenever you're considering on behalf of a group in society executing someone else, it's a moral dilemma.
One Bonowitz knows well.
Well, I started out in favor of the death penalty. The thing that made me jump from one side of the fence to the other was learning if you're gonna commit a murder, you have to do it in a county that can afford a death penalty trial in order to even be death eligible.
Former Attorney General and criminal defense lawyer Dave Leroy says that argument doesn't hold much weight in Idaho.
Even in the small counties in Idaho, I would not think that's a significant factor in Idaho to deter a death penalty prosecution in a proper case.
He also explained why he thinks the death penalty has a place in society.
I believe that there's a deterrent effect, that the possibility of being executed does discourage a certain subset of people who might otherwise commit a murder in a thinking way. And I believe in retribution. I think there's something morally correct about an eye for an eye, again, in the most heinous of cases.
Bonowitz says they will protest the execution outside the prison Wednesday, but Creech's team also hasn't stopped fighting to save him. Just a few days ago, they filed an appeal with the U.S. Supreme Court to stay the execution, but I am told the Supreme Court rarely stays executions. And Shira, we should also say that earlier today, a U.S. appeals court denied a different appeal to delay the execution. So as of now, everything is moving forward.
All right, and we'll be sure to cover those events as well over the weekend.